paint this picture in the style of Pablo Picasso. Hi everyone, Steve Elliott here again, working on my Painting in the Style of series. Today I am going to work in the style of Pablo Picasso. You'll see straight away that there isn't a reference photo for Picasso here, and although I do have a painting that I'm working from to reference the style, I couldn't find one that wasn't under copyright, because most of the artists that I've worked on so far, it's easy to get a copyright free image because they've been dead more than 70 years. Well, Picasso hasn't, so I spent hours looking on the net for a copyright free image, and the only one I could find is the one at the beginning of this video, which was a painting that was on a stamp, and that was it. So I will put a link to the actual painting that I use for reference, just to give you an idea of what I'm working from. But you can see there, there's a photo that I am working from. This is a fun painting, really. It's the actual scene is set in a small pub in Castle Donington called the Jolly Potters, which every May Day and on other bank holidays and other occasions, they have live bands on in the garden, and the place gets rammed, whether it's raining or the sun's shining, it doesn't matter. People turn out and the place just rocks. So I thought that would be an apt picture to use for this painting. So Pablo Picasso, nobody has suggested that I paint in the style of Picasso, but I wanted to, because I wanted to mix the series up a bit. I wanted to make sure that I'd got lots of different styles and not just sort of be repetitive and do stuff of a similar style all the time. So that's what I'm doing here. I started off painting in some geometric shapes, and then I felt I needed to quickly rough in some figures to help me work out the composition and balance everything. So that's what I'm doing there. Anyway, Picasso. I'm sure everybody has heard of Picasso. He was born in 1881, so sort of, I guess, in the middle of the Impressionist period, and he died in 1973. So he had a good long life of 91 years. And he was actually a Spanish painter. He was also a sculptor, printmaker, a stage designer, and a poet and a playwright. So clearly a most talented man. He spent, although he was Spanish, he did spend most of his life in France, and he was one of the most influential artists of the 20th century, and is probably best known for Cubism, the Cubist movement, and he also was the co-inventor of the collage, surprisingly enough. I didn't know that. So all you crafters out there, I guess you've got to thank Pablo Picasso for that one. He was an extraordinary artist, very talented in his early years. He painted in a naturalistic style, so he wasn't always sort of way out there and cutting edge. He did paint in a very traditional style in his early years and his adolescence, but he did progress on to become the groundbreaking artist that he was. His style changed in the early 20th century, so I guess when he was about 20, he was a fan of the Fauvist work of Henri Matisse. Now that movement was sort of all about painterly qualities and strong colour. Really was more important than the realistic representation and natural colours that you would use. So that inspired him and motivated him to experiment and explore all the avenues that he did. And he became a rival of Henri Matisse, but it was a very fruitful relationship because it both spurred them on to produce work. And the two painters were often paired by critics of the leaders of the modern art movement. And I'm sure you would all recognise that, I would guess. So anyway, my painting, I've probably created more layers on this one than I've ever done before. This is, it's obviously clearly not a Cubist painting. This is from his period that you would probably call the African influence period. And that was between 1907 and 1909, with a sort of influenced by African sculpture, really, and the sort of long limbs of those sculptures and the like. So I wanted to sort of get in all these geometric shapes as well. I started off painting like regular leaves and thought, they're not working. He wouldn't have done that. So I'm sort of guessing, because my reference painting doesn't contain leaves or anything. It's much more, it's actually set inside a property, I guess. And so there's no leaves or flowers or anything like that. So I had to sort of guess what he would do. And I created layers for the, you can see this sort of some wood paneling, which is like a partition between the ground and a sort of raised platform that's outside of the pub that people can sit on. So I sort of created layers to put all these elements on, and then and paint the characters in, and just keep them all on their own layers, which I did pretty much right the way through the painting, really. It really was fun to paint this. Again, I am not going to say if I think I have achieved the style of Picasso. I'm going to let you make your own mind upon that. And what I'm really pleased about is people actually commenting in the bottom of the in the comments, you know, saying yes, you have achieved it, or sometimes they're saying no, you haven't. So it's great. The feedback's really fantastic. So if you do that, I really like that and I appreciate that. Oh yes, and I've reached 1,000 subscribers. So thank you all so much for subscribing and supporting me on this channel. I'm going to do a special video for that, and actually it will probably have come out before this one does. So it's what I'm going to make next, and I'll probably release that before this one comes out. So you'll probably all know what I've got planned for that while you're watching this. Okay, that all kind of makes sense. But anyway, thank you so much. It means such a lot, and you know, keep it up. It's great. I love it. So Picasso, then, his work was categorized into periods, and the first one would be the blue period, which is between 1901 and 1904, where he kind of painted in monochromatic colours, mostly a blue, and then occasionally emphasising them with contrasting colours. Then he moved into the rose period between 1904 and 1906, so you can guess what colours he was using then. Then he changed again, and this is when he became the period of the African influence, which was between 1907 and 1909. So it was only like a 2-year period, and that's what this style is based on, really. After that, then I guess its most well-known or famous period was Cubism, and that was between 1909 and 1912. And then synthetic Cubism, or the crystal period, which was 1912 to 1919. And the difference between those two Cubism periods is the first style, there's lots of blending in of the cubes and a lot of sort of shading work, but the second period is much more blocky colours, really. A bit more like sort of screen printing type methods, although it wasn't. And then after that, well, it kind of overlapped a bit with Cubism, with the 1910 to the 1920s neoclassical period, which was a return to order, really, and it came after and during, I suppose, the First World War, when obviously people were depressed and somber, and the realization of war had changed things a lot, and people's views changed. So there was a return to this sort of classical style of painting which he worked in, and he was a prolific artist throughout his life, which gave him universal renown and an immense fortune, which was a reward for his revolutionary work, actually. Now, what's really interesting here, he was baptized, and I'm going to have to take my time with this because there's a good chance I will get it wrong. Pablo Diego Jose Francisco de Paula Juan Nepomuceno Maria della Remendioso Cipriano della Santissima Trinidad Ruya Picasso. Quite a long name, but it was honouring various saints and relatives. So with a name like that, how can you fail to make something with your life for such a great name? And he was clearly born a Catholic, but later he did become an atheist. And I wondered if that was to do with the fact that he had sort of communist ties, perhaps. I don't know. There's so much to say about Picasso, but I couldn't begin to squeeze it all in this short video, really. His father was a professor of art and curator of a museum, and his ancestors were minor aristocrats. So he came from a middle class background, and from the age of 7 he received formal training from his dad, but at 13 his dad pronounced his son had surpassed him, and he vowed to give up painting, but in actual fact he didn't, because there has been recorded works after that time that he had produced. So he lived a long life, very famous, made a lot of money, and he actually died in 1973 at the age of 91. He died of heart failure while entertaining guests. So that was really sad, I guess. But he lived a very fruitful and exciting and rewarding life. So let's not be sad about that. That is my painting in the style of Picasso. I hope you've liked it. I've obviously painted this in Artrage because I wanted to get the kind of thick brush strokes in that you don't see Procreate so much. But that is it. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, a big thumbs up as always is much appreciated, and if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. I have lots more videos like this, and I would love to be sharing them with you. So hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Bye.